With me now to discuss is the Senior Research Fellow with Heritage's Asian Studies Center, Dean Cheng. Happy to have you with us tonight, Dean.
Thank you for having me.
So when we talk about CCP members being embedded in corporations and government agencies, what kind of information are they looking for?
Well, I think that given the breadth of what we're looking at, they are there for a number of reasons. Some of it is to collect information. It's a broad sweep. Everything from who are your coworkers? What are their opinions about things like Taiwan, about China, to what kind of projects are you working on, to what kind of contracts, who are your points of contact in government. One of the British newspapers noted, for example, that one of these officials seems to be at a British consulate literally down the hall from MI6, which is the UK's equivalent of the CIA station chief.
When it comes down to it, do we know exactly where these leaks are coming from? Was this leak from the inside by someone inside the CCP? Where did this leak come from to Sky News?
So it's the trail seems to go back to an online repository, and it seems to have been deposited. The data seems to be from 2016. An Australian cyber firm seems to have confirmed that this is genuine. It came from within the Shanghai offices, apparently, of the CCP. But exactly who did this, how and why, we don't know. What we do know is that if this data is accurate, if it is genuine, whoever did this put their lives at risk, because this is not something that the CCP would take lightly.
And governments and corporations who may find that they do have CCP members working for them, what should they be doing? How should they respond to this report?
Well, that's a tough call because obviously having these people inside your system is a point of vulnerability. But at the same time, we do need to recognize that if you interact with China, you're going to interact with the Chinese Communist Party because the CCP has its fingers literally in everything, from religious organizations to NGOs to labor unions to environmental groups to, of course, the people that you hire to work, especially at places like embassies and consulates. Frankly, whether they were a member of the CCP or not, they should have been viewed, if they're working at an embassy or a consulate, as a potential security vulnerability.
And that's such a shame when we are dealing with such a large and all-encompassing government, such as the Communist Party government in Beijing of China, that unfortunately so many innocent people get wrapped up within that. When it comes down to it, when we look at this leaked database, does that set back any of Beijing's long-term goals at all, do you think?
Well, I think that coming as it does on top of the spy scandals here in the United States, on top of the controversies involving Australia and New Zealand, it definitely is making Beijing's life harder as they really go on this smile campaign of, look, we're the people who provide PPE and COVID, and we're working on a vaccine, and don't you want to cooperate with us? It does, however, also highlight the reality that we should be very, very careful when we interact with China because the data and things that they provide is often questionable. The quality of their PPE has been questionable, and the people that you hire from China, you do have to question yourself, where are their loyalties?
And when we talk about this long game, this long-term game that China is playing, especially when we bring up the Congressman Eric Swalwell incident, the scandal involving Christine Feng, an alleged Chinese spy, that when we look at her, that she was involved with many mayors and low-level officials before they made it, for example, with Swalwell, before he even made it into Congress, she was helping him to raise campaign funds and to help him campaign. So what is the long-term goal there with getting in with low-level people?
Well, this actually ties back to this database. This database of people, presumably we're told, look, keep an eye out for people who are ambitious, who are talented, who are skillful, so that we know who to keep an eye on, who perhaps to approach, because you never know. And with the Chinese, I mean, in some ways you have to admire this. They are thinking long term. They are thinking, you know, if I plant only one seed, I'm betting everything on that one seed. But if I plant a dozen or 2 dozen or 6 dozen, some of them may top out at mayors, some of them may top out at city councilmen, and some may become representatives or cabinet officials, or who knows.
And the end goal here of China, is it to surpass the U.S. as the largest economy, as the global dominant power when it comes to military and soft power? What exactly is their end goal?
The recent party plenum, the Chinese basically said that their objective, for example, with the military, is to be fully mechanized and fully informationized by 2027, and then to really become one of the major powers, by which presumably they mean the top three or top five, no later than 2049, the centennial of the founding of the People's Republic of China. Whether that's number one or number two in GDP is less relevant than the idea that the whole comprehensive package means that by 2049, no one will do things without thinking, what would China think?
And when we look here at the U.S. exclusively, we see DNI John Ratcliffe. He was sounding the alarm about a week or two ago. He was saying that members currently here in Congress are being blackmailed and bribed by some Chinese influences, by Beijing. How high up does it go? How much of the U.S. government may be compromised?
Well, I think that what DNI Ratcliffe was saying wasn't so much necessarily that specific people are being blackmailed, so much as if you are in the U.S. government and you are in a position to make decisions, and that means more than just congressmen and secretaries of state and the like, but it can also mean mid-level people who have a huge amount of influence. You need to be aware that China knows who you are, and China is probably going to try and pressure you. And that is, in some ways, a much more comprehensive threat than simply, is it targeting this congressman or that senator, this secretary or that general? I mean, this is a whole of society approach towards influencing the United States to not counter China.
Great analysis as always, Dean. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching the Heritage Foundation's YouTube channel. With more than 500,000 members, we are the nation's largest conservative research and education institution. We believe the principles and ideas of the American founding are worth conserving and renewing. Please help us further our mission by subscribing to this channel and sharing our videos with your family and friends.